Hello everyone, welcome to my channel where we talk about things we love like gaming, shows, and anime. Today, instead of the usual facts videos, I decided to work on something a lot of people have been discussing. Which series is better, Dragon Ball Super or Dragon Ball GT? I know most of you who've seen my old videos on GT know that I am not the biggest fan of GT. I still get a lot of comments on GT and why do I hate it, which the answer is easy. Weren't you paying attention to the top 10 reasons why the series sucked ass? I explain it there plain and simple. And back in my old videos I used to speak real fucking slow, so in many ways that turned into a good thing for those who need for me to speak slower. And you can't go any slower than that. Now, even though Dragon Ball Super has made me enjoy the series yet again, it has had its ups and downs, but are there just enough negative issues to say that it is just as bad as GT? Should I be working on a top 10 reasons why Dragon Ball Super sucks ass video? We better take a look at this and compare it with GT. Now, just to let you all newcomers know, including those of you who have seen my hatred towards GT, I don't hate it as much as I used to now. And because, to be honest, that's because I'm comparing it with Dragon Ball Super. Back when I made the video of top 10 reasons why Dragon Ball GT sucks ass, there was no Dragon Ball Super, so there was only to compare Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, two shows which were successful as fuck. So now that we got a new show, which isn't as good as Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z, then let's begin comparing the animation. Let's get the shit stain out of the way and talk about the main issue I have with the series. So when Dragon Ball Super aired their first episode, I was okay with the animation. I didn't see anything too clumsy, or at least I don't recall seeing anything that was unexcusable. The only thing I remember from the episode is that it was boring. Nothing exciting. There wasn't a single fight. No one showed us anything new. It wasn't funny either, but again, the animation wasn't half bad. But then we got to see the next episode and the next, and by the time they hit episode 5, oh man, it was so bad that even Japan made their news headline all about Dragon Ball Super episode 5. That was a fucking disgrace, and this was around the time memes started becoming more and more popular, so what do you think happened next? Everyone started making fun of Dragon Ball Super, and the jokes were everywhere. You could not possibly ignore Dragon Ball Super now. If you weren't interested in watching the show before, now you were interested just to come up with your own parodies. So they fucked up. The show got popular, but for the wrong reason. I don't recall GT becoming popular for its lack of animation. In fact, looking back at the video I made on GT Sucks Ass, I said that the animation was terrible because characters didn't look exactly like they used to. I mean, if you put Gohan and Goten next to each other, you couldn't even tell them apart. I know you're probably gonna say, well, then you're retarded for not spotting the differences. Maybe, damn it. But I can guarantee you that there's gonna be over 50% of Dragon Ball fans who will also get the answer wrong. And when that's an issue alone, then there's a problem. But other than that, now that I can compare it with Dragon Ball Super, the animation in Dragon Ball GT is 10 times better than the animation of Dragon Ball Super. Dragon Ball Super has had moments when the animation is spot on. For example, if you take a look at the fight scenes against Goku Black, you won't have a problem there. It looks great. But then when you look at previous fight scenes against Beerus, against Frieza, the henchmen, Jesus Christ, they don't even bother trying. I remember when the episode came up where some of the Z Fighters showed up to fight Frieza and his henchmen, I was hoping that the action was going to be just like the one shown in the opening of the series, where you got Goku, Vegeta, and even Gohan taking on the henchmen, and the animation looked perfect. But then we got to the action, it was fucking disappointing. This was something we actually were able to compare it with something else, the fucking movie of Resurrection F. That gave us no problems whatsoever. I mean, it was a movie, so you know the animators were going to be trying their hardest since they were getting a steady paycheck. So let's see. When Goku fought against Beerus in the previous arc, the animation in that series was terrible. When Goku fought against Golden Frieza, the animation was god-awful. And when we finally jumped into a new arc that wasn't based off a movie, again, the animation was bad. I enjoyed the crap out of Universe 6 Saga, but I still remember that the animation just sucked ass. All except for the moment Goku fought against Hit. That was one time I remember the animation looked pretty badass. That is all. And when we got to the latest arc, the Future Trunks Saga, like I said, the animation and the fight scenes looked great, but the rest looked like complete garbage. And now that I look back at GT, that animation looks pretty good. So in the end, you gotta admit that the animation of GT is better, or at least acceptable animation. Let's move on and talk about the fight scenes and the characters. One thing I know I always gotta look forward to in anything Dragon Ball related are the fight scenes. Are they good or are they boring as hell? Now remember, the animation of the fight scene can help make it look good, right? But it still has to be an interesting fight. So when I'm talking about the fight scenes, I want to see 2 or more characters build up to the fight. We gotta have a killer soundtrack, it's gotta be fast paced, and it's gotta look good. Let's take a look at Dragon Ball Super's first fight. And to start things off, let's begin with the time Beerus fought against that 6-armed alien. How was it? I can't say you can consider this one a fight scene since it ended right away, but even though it ends quick, look at the awesomeness of this scene. Beerus is taking on a 6-armed creature who's attacking pretty fast paced, and Lord Beerus is blocking every hit with one finger paw. This scene alone is considered badass. Some of you would probably say that the real first fight was when Goten and Kid Trunks fought against that snake. But counting that would be like counting Gohan chasing the saber to the tiger in the pilot episode of Dragon Ball Z as the first fight as well, and we don't want to know that. Let's take a look at the first fight in Dragon Ball GT. We got Goku sparring against Oob. How's the fight? Were we hoping to see this? Yes, we were. This is exactly where Dragon Ball Z ended. We saw Goku take off with Oob and tell everyone that he was going to train Oob for a good amount of years and he'll be back when their training's over. And this is how the series begins? Perfect! That's a good start. And the best part of all is that they skipped all the years of training and showed us their last day training together so we can see the kind of progress they've gotten through over the years. So both Dragon Ball Super and Dragon Ball GT started off with a good match as their first fight in the series. But do they get better as the show progresses? Uh-oh. It's not looking so good for Dragon Ball GT. By the looks of it, they're having problems with giant worms, dancing, and even Garfield. What the hell's going on with the Z Fighters? Did they forget that they've defeated beings who terrorized worlds? Last I remember, these guys had no problems facing up against a magical bubblegum man that can turn them into candy, yet over here they prefer to run away most of the time? So the fight scenes in GT have been toned down. There aren't that many good fights that I can think of. And I'm being brutally honest here, just as I said, Dragon Ball Z had their fair share of crappy fights. I'm not gonna say that Dragon Ball Z was fucking perfect. They had a couple bad moments like the Garlic Jr. saga, but when you exclude that filler saga, the fight scenes throughout the series were badass and entertaining. But I can't say the same for GT. They had moments that built up to a fight, but when we got the fights, they were such a letdown. Even with the ones that had the main villain fight, they still sucked. I wanted to see a kick-ass fight of Goku Super Saiyan 4 against Super Android 17, and what did we get? Goku shooting multiple ki blasts at a relaxing Super Android 17 who isn't even taking it serious. He's not even countering because he's absorbing all that energy. He's just chilling. And Goku's dumbass is like, oh my, he's not flinching every time I hit him with the ki blast. I better hit him even harder. Yeah, let's throw a fucking powered up Kamehameha. That's gonna work. I don't remember taking on any androids that can absorb ki blasts. That never happened. That was fucking bullshit. They brought back Android 17, 2 of them for some reason, and they fused them to create Super Android 17, which his design looked badass. And I could tell that he wasn't going down without a fight, but wait a minute. He did go down without a fight. Yeah, he absorbed too much energy to the point that Goku just had to jump and hit him once in the belly to take him out the same way he did with King Piccolo. So we didn't get to see a good fight with Super Android 17. The dragons were a good concept, but they were also poorly executed. Omega Shenron was a pretty good villain, but to make him the final threat of GT, I guess I could see that as the biggest threat, but the way he was finished off wasn't anything new. The final threat in Dragon Ball Z was Kid Buu, and he was finished off with a Spirit Bomb. To finish off the final threat of GT by using the Spirit Bomb again means you're out of ideas. You could have used every single Z fighter, become useful, and maybe have everyone perform their strongest special attack, launch it at Omega Shenron and... Wait. What am I saying? They gave us Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. Instead of having them bullshit around Omega Shenron teasing his ass with fake attacks, why didn't they just make him take it serious and finish his ass off coming up with a kick-ass attack like he did in Fusion Reborn, and pretty much introduces a new special finishing move like they did against Janemba. That would have worked. Before all that, we did have a small return of Frieza and Cell working together, but can you honestly say that their team up against Goku was awesome? Hell to the no, Goku was overpowering, he played around with them, didn't even have to take that shit serious. But then when Frieza and Cell say that they've come up with a killer move together, all they do is some sort of Mafuba move that takes Goku beneath hell. That's fucking lame. It sounds cool when you say that Goku was taken beneath hell, but then you see what it looks like and it doesn't look anything terrifying. Oh, but there was one good villain from GT that I haven't mentioned yet. Baby. Yeah, that was a good villain. He had a kick-ass design, well at least his last form of Baby Vegeta was. And the fight of Goku Super Saiyan 4 versus Baby Vegeta, that was actually pretty damn entertaining. I'm not gonna lie, I was entertained with that fight, and things did get a little exciting after Bulma turned Baby into a giant ape form. It was a good fight. So far I only see one good fight in Dragon Ball GT. Now let's take a look at the fights in Dragon Ball Super. Okay, so we know that the first fight between Goku and Beerus was a complete abomination, but what about their next fight? It was bad. Since this fight was a part of the Battle of Gods movie, we've already seen that in a much better quality, so clearly this and the resurrection of F Saga were completely useless and fucking pathetic when comparing both to the movies, Battle of Gods and Resurrection of Frieza. No one is ever gonna say that the episode fights were better than the movie fights. They were complete garbage. The animation was a fucking disgrace. The fight scenes were slow and uninteresting, especially since we already knew what was gonna happen. It was interesting the moment they said that the universe could explode because of Goku and Beerus' attacks colliding, but then nothing different happened, and just as the movie showed us, Beerus wins and spares Earth so that he can come back whenever. I think Dragon Ball Super was doomed from the start because of making the series begin by extending the latest movies into 2 sagas. It was not at all something the fans were wanting. I would have preferred to wait another year until they got their shit straight and come up with a new saga that isn't an extended version of a movie. The Universe 6 saga was finally something new to us, and we were introduced to the best fighters from Universe 6. That was definitely interesting to me. I wanted to know more about these characters, especially because we already know that these are the best fighters from the universe they're from, and putting them against the best fighters from the universe we know, that is awesome. We got to see Goku, Vegeta, and Piccolo fight once again. Yes, I'm excluding Majin Buu and Monaka just as they were pretty much useless. Monaka may have won the tournament, but after finding out that he was just another Mr. Satan, there wasn't gonna be a good fight there already. Now let's take a look at each fighter from Universe 6. We got Botamo, Magetta, Frost, Kabe, and Hit. Each have their own unique looks, and when you notice that one of them is a Saiyan and another one is a Demon Frost, or Frost Demon, Frieza race, that just made things even more exciting. Now, sure, it was disappointing to see that Frost and Kabe weren't as strong as we'd expect them to be, but it was still very entertaining. This is something I would have loved to have seen from GT fighters such as Majin Buu when he went up against Baby Vegeta, because it could have been badass, but they quickly ended it by making Oob's technique backfire on him. Going back to the Universe 6 fighters, they were interesting characters. Heck, I even found Magetta and Botamo interesting enough to want to see them come back for the Multiverse Tournament. They both demonstrated amazing abilities to become just as interesting as Frost, Kabe, and Hit. But as for characters in Dragon Ball GT, I could only say that I'd like to see Baby, Super 17, and even Omega Shenron come back but executed better. I'd say Dragon Ball Super did a much better job in the fight scenes. I was entertained with most episodes to those 2 sagas. The Universe 6 saga started off great and ended great, but as for the Future Trunks saga, and it's just my opinion, they had many ups and downs. There were moments when I was really excited and then moments where I was just as confused as when I was watching GT. Moments like the reveal of Goku Black's true identity, or when seeing that Future Trunks ended up defeating Zamasu and Goku Black with the help of friendship and humanity's shine of hope. Now, the story arcs for Dragon Ball GT had great concepts such as Baby's origins and why he wants to rule over everything, and then we got the Super 17 arc where every villain from Hell gets brought back to life and invades Earth. That was a great idea. It was already seen in the movie Fusion Reborn, but since that was a movie, they had to speed things up, and they couldn't concentrate on every villain that was unleashed on Earth, so this was their chance to give every villain throughout the entire Dragon Ball series to make a comeback all at once and have the Z Fighters take them on together for one epic war. This was a great opportunity to have all the Z Fighters fight together to protect the Earth. Or maybe even bring dead heroes on Earth to help them protect the Earth by putting evil back in their place. Here's the way the Super 17 saga would have been epic. All the villains from Hell are unleashed on Earth. The Z Fighters try to take them all on, but it's not as easy as they'd expect because not all of them have been continuing their training. So most of them are rusty and can only put up a fight against characters they've clearly surpassed. But when facing off against characters like Frieza, Cell, Cooler, Broly, or Bojack and his crew, then the Z Fighters start to lose. Now, this would have been a lot better if Goku didn't jump into Hell and take on Cell or Frieza. It would have been much better if he just stayed on Earth fighting to defend it with his friends. But since there are far too many villains to handle, then they need as much backup as possible. So Goku asks King Kai to help him track down fighters that can help them protect the Earth. Here we could have had an epic moment where the Z Fighters are about to get killed, but then they are saved by warriors from above. This is where we get a surprise comeback from Tapion, Future Trunks, Bardock, his crew of course, Paikuhan, and other strong warriors from the other world all together to take on the forces of Hell. That alone would have made everyone's jaws drop. And you can't even say that the movie characters aren't allowed because we got to see Cooler make an appearance, so that leaves all doors open. Also, since both Goten and Trunks are working together again, why not, I don't know, make them fuse? Same goes for Tien and Yamcha. They may not have ever fused in the series, but all doors are open for GT, so anything is possible. I mean, you could just as easily have the two of them work together and then have them say, hey Tien, remember the fusion we've been practicing on our own time? Let's do it. That's all you need. You don't need to build up anything on the fusion of Tien and Yamcha. This alone would be enough to get everyone excited. And look at that. We're not even thinking about Super 17 versus Goku anymore. Heck, I'm pretty sure that Gotenks Super Saiyan 3 would have put up one hell of a fight against Super 17. But this is already interesting enough. Now, Dragon Ball Super went a totally random direction during the Future Trunks saga. It ended in a way that felt rushed, it felt unsatisfying, and it left a lot of fans disappointed with the series. I'm not so sure whether the next saga will be a better arc than the recent ones we received. I know it seems like a challenge when you got characters taking on god level opponents, but that adds up to the excitement. Goku is no longer the strongest character in the series and Toriyama plans to keep it that way. That's great. In every previous series, Goku always had to be the strongest. He would constantly train and eventually become the victor. But now, no matter how much he trains, Beerus will not be surpassed anytime soon, leaving everyone to wonder if there will ever be an opponent strong enough to defeat Beerus or even Whis. That leaves to many opportunities of having Goku take on other gods that Beerus mentioned to him at the end of their fight. I was always waiting for Dragon Ball Super to begin airing because I was under the impression that Goku and Vegeta were going to take on the remaining gods, but that never happened. We might see them come back in the Multiverse Tournament, but we don't know yet. For now, we just gotta wait and hope that the series gets better. So, as you can see, both Dragon Ball GT and Dragon Ball Super have had great concepts like the storylines, the character designs, well, most character designs, most character origins, and if you take a look at the positives and negatives from both shows, they're almost identical. To be honest, it's hard to say that Dragon Ball Super is just as bad as GT, but now that GT has to become nostalgic and the animation is not as bad as I once described it to be, now that we have Dragon Ball Super's bad animation to compare it with, it comes down to what do you prefer the most. Not just that, but Dragon Ball GT doesn't seem so bad anymore. Now, if I had to sit down and watch the entire series, I would not want to watch Dragon Ball GT from the beginning because the search for the 7 Dragon Balls from other planets was not an exciting adventure. It was so boring. And I say the same thing about Dragon Ball Super because of the Battle of Gods and Resurrection of F sagas. They sucked so fucking bad. I was almost about to give up on the series if it wasn't for the Universe 6 tournament. I can't say Dragon Ball Super is better, nor can I say it's worse. GT still has some good concepts like Super 17, Baby, Goku and Vegeta's Super Saiyan 4 form, Hell Unleashed. Honestly, we're gonna have to wait and see after Dragon Ball Super is over. I might even have to take back what I said about GT. I might. Because they had the potential to make it better than Dragon Ball Z, and they failed miserably, in my opinion. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if so, please leave a like, share with others, and subscribe if you haven't. And don't forget to click on the little bell icon next to the subscribe button to notify you of every new video that gets uploaded to this channel. And let me know which series you prefer, Dragon Ball GT or Dragon Ball Super so far. As for now, I'll see you all tomorrow, and remember to have an awesome day.